All right, next up is Pat Christie. Pat is founder of Conservis and Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Pat launched Conservis in 2008 to focus on enterprise sustainability and solve meaningful problems for farmers. His outside-the-box thinking and keen ability to analyze agriculture's present and future make him a visionary committed to the success of farmers and farming industry. Okay, so Nick's unshared, and Pat is going to share his
screen. I don't know who wrote that about me. It's all wrong. We're all still learning how to solve these problems. I don't have it all figured out. I can see John in the back, Brian, Norm, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me here. You know, what I'd like to do is, besides tell some funny jokes, which no one ever laughs at, I'm going to try and give a little bit of a view on some of the stuff we're seeing in the industry, and then maybe a little update on the company, because I think it's kind of interesting to see what's happening out there. Some of this you guys probably know intimately. Worst case, it forces a conversation. You know, I think it was, you know, Brian, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, 6 months ago, there was a survey, and there's like 6,000 different ag tech companies. I mean, it's some crazy number of innovative companies, whether it be technology, digital, agronomic, machinery, autonomous vehicles, just go through the list. And, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, so as I think most of you are, you know, so that's inspiring, right? A lot of innovation, a lot of opportunity to bring efficiency and do more with less, right? What's happening is we're now moving through a cycle where things are starting to mature. And I think it was Winston Churchill that said, you know, we're coming to the end of the beginning, right? We're coming to the end of the beginning. And so with that, you're starting to see companies coming out of nowhere, starting to build big platforms in ag and food. This is a beautiful chart I stole from somewhere, I forget where, but the adoption curve is real, right? This is a technology adoption curve that was actually originally researched in Wisconsin, university research with dairy farmers around who are the enthusiasts that are early. They usually spend more money, make a lot of mistakes, but they are sometimes ahead of the curve. Then there's the visionaries that are trying to figure out, I mean, think of these as, you know, the folks that were using AutoSteer 17 years ago before it became mainstream. And then there's this gap. And in that gap, a lot of companies, technology companies, fail because they maybe couldn't get to the point where the market really adopts. And I think one of the classic examples of this is AutoSteer, where over the 17 years before it got to 70% adoption, there was, I forget the number, 10 years where adoption was less than 7%. It's an interesting way to think about the opportunities that I think we're all looking for, which is how do we start to streamline, integrate, and really turn data from a chore into a value, right? How do we actually get a return on our knowledge investment? I'm gonna go through a couple slides here that just kind of frame up what we see as a real world moment. There is a technological tipping point. Every one of you has a smartphone, right? No one thinks anymore about the notion of data and email. We still complain about it. I do every day. I get way too many texts and emails. But it is here, right? And as more and more things digitize, there's a natural opportunity to move information seamlessly from one system to the other, from an accounting system to a machinery system, from a human management system to a business system. Sustainability, you know, now a standard. What does that mean? Every facet of the world is looking at this differently, but everywhere we sit and touch, all of our clients, whether it be carbon, traceability, nitrogen plans, profitability as a sustainable framework, it's real, and of course, profitability. You know, it's crazy what's happening with both markets, but the problem with markets and commodity prices climbing is everything follows right behind it, right? So always living in that cash crunch. You know, how do you manage that and get ahead of it? And in these moments, everything around us is changing. You know, at the farm gate, it's a continual evolution. Look at what's happened with Bayer and Monsanto. I mean, think 5 years ago, have we ever thought about glyphosate becoming what it's become 5 years ago? I mean, it's just amazing what's happening, not only in the industry, but then all of the technologies that are coming to bear. So solving for the field, solving for the farm requires both data around what you're producing and also the business side. And this is where, Norm and company has done a great job. They've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. That's why you're at this conference. The pie is getting bigger. There's more data to collect. How do you bring it all together? How do you start to integrate? And so, whether it's Conservis, because we do this, we integrate with FBS and other systems. Granular is another one some of you have heard of, maybe even use. There's a variety of platforms out there that are trying to do this. It is hard. It is expensive. And it's wrought with risk. I mean, we spent $12 million trying to get John Deere to work 4 years ago. Now, we had to spend that money, not 12 million at one time. Over 4 years, we spent 12 million. But the first spend to do that was incredibly expensive. I mean, who wants to go and put millions of dollars into trying to connect something, not knowing if it's going to really work the way that your clients, want to use it? But along the way, it's really, how do you comprehend a farmer first system? And how do you do it in a way that you're not tied to a chemical company, an input company, a seed company? Go down the list. Who's going to have your lens when you put all this data together? Now, this is a little bit about us, but I think, again, this is generic. Operational planning, financial budgeting, purchasing, inventory, operational deployment and management, all the way through harvest and payment. Starting to line all these things up in a comprehensive way is how you start to get to that real-time business lens. And it doesn't matter if it's corn and beans, tree nuts, animal husbandry, cow-calf, it doesn't matter. All of this exists generically across all of agriculture. Where it gets difficult and where success happens is, how do you actually make this work for your farm? The way you operate with your machinery, with your people, with your systems. That's what takes a lot of technical capability and a lot of people capability. Now, this is a little bit of a esoteric slide, but it is something that I'm seeing with kind of the folks that we're spending time with. Food companies are reshaping as ingredient sourcers, right? Look at Benson Hill. If you're familiar with Benson Hill, just went public through a SPAC, $1.2 billion, $1.4 billion, and their whole basis is they're going to start to build proprietary supply chains of pea proteins for meat alternatives. Now that's genetics, grower, processor, ingredient, finished product, and data is a component of that entire linkage. And so the pressure for good information flow that is interconnected outside the farm gate puts more pressure on what's in the farm gate. I think I got 7 minutes here, so I'm trying to, I could tell some bad jokes. Hopefully this is a useful narrative. Just a quick background on who we are. We've been at this for 12 years. Started in row crops in the US, ended up working with institutional owners of farmland in Australia, and then moved into permanent crops. So our clients are family farms. Our clients are also pension funds that own, $500 million worth of farmland. They use us to manage their farm operations and then roll up operational and financial data into an enterprise view. The reality is the same problem. If you can't get on the farm, and you can't make it work, it doesn't matter who you are. Family farm, corporate owner, doesn't matter. So we've had the pleasure and the obligation to build systems and integrations for a wide variety of clients. And when you get a wide variety of clients, it gives you a lens on how to think about solving problems in a more perhaps holistic way. Sometimes it doesn't always come together that way. But if you look at this top right-hand corner, oversimplification, but absolutely true. If you don't have good data management, all of your other things are going to be at risk. Your financial data may not be of a quality you want it, and your operational data may not be at the quality you want it. And the reality is they interlope with one another. You have to have all three. Now, we've been at this long enough, kind of going back to the predicate, platforms are emerging. In July of this year, Conservis was acquired by two companies. One is Rabobank, and the other is a group called TELUS Agriculture. And maybe just 2 seconds on who they are, because I'm fascinated by them. Some of you already know Rabo, the world's largest food and ag bank based in the Netherlands, Dutch cooperative, 27th largest bank in the world. Their direct to farm business is they have about 20,000 clients globally, US, Australia, New Zealand, LATAM. But what they really are is a network, an institutional network, right? So they sit between downstream and upstream from the farmer's lender at the farm gate. Research and knowledge is one of their core principles, one of the core values. And so they have a really interesting way of looking at the world. We've been working with them for a while. We actually built some technology where they helped us extend our financial toolkit. TELUS is the one that maybe some of you have heard of, maybe haven't. They're the Verizon of Canada. 100,000 employees, publicly traded, $16 billion telecommunications company. They built a healthcare business 10 years ago that's now a fairly large healthcare data company. They're the back office for Microsoft and Google. 3 years ago, they started to look at agriculture as a sector where independence and bringing systems together is a need and an opportunity. And so they started to acquire companies. Some of these companies you may have heard of, some of them you may not have. They're going across the entire food and ag chain, and they're about a third of the way through their strategy. So they're in the early days of a very large strategy. And so we sit between Rabo and TELUS, and we are the farm-facing agent. So Rabo is going to continue to help us originate and build our business commercially. TELUS is going to be a warehouse of capabilities. So when thinking about integrations and data and how to start to bring things together so they're easier to use and more complete, we've kind of got an interesting view on where things are going. And so that's one thing, anytime I can, things that we're seeing, I want to share, with our clients and partners, because it's still the Wild West in some places. Some of the things we did with Rabo, which actually led into this acquisition, was bringing different systems together. John Deere, climate, accounting, carbon, traceability, and then taking it and putting it into the context of a financial position. What is your real-time in-market position? Where do you sit budgeted on your crop to be sold and what's actual? So crop positions, all of the aspects, bring it into one place and make it actionable. And again, you all know this, it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of time and energy to put this stuff together. So this is just an idea. This is real software. This is the stuff we actually have, but again, I think we're at the end of the beginning. These things are just starting to come into a factor and a form of usability, and the digital native is on farm, and it's here to stay. And I think one of the things we love about FBS and Norm and crew is we're all trying to solve for the same problem. How do we really highlight and visualize farm health and profitability in real time, to the point where as you get more integrated, so you got machine data, you've got your inventory and direct costs and indirect costs. Now let's start to overlap all that information and really push into in-field analysis of profit, cost, and revenue. And once you start to have all these layers and you can actually ground truth that the information is correct, now you can get into real valuable insights. And that's my 15 minutes of fame. Is this where I tell the bad joke?
Yes, go ahead. Get
all right.
A shot.
So I was just at the Minnesota State Fair. It's I mean, who doesn't love their state fair? And besides the butter sculpture of the Dairy Queen, which is a favorite, they had a pickle competition, and there was actually the world's largest pickle at the Minnesota State Fair, but everybody thought it was no big deal. I didn't say they were funny. I said they were jokes.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Pat. And stick around. We'll have some questions later.
All right.